That's right.
So my ex says it all the time. She goes, I'm the perfect mix of Aragorn and Ron Weasley. And it is the most...
In what way?
Okay, you got to know me. Okay,
Yeah.
First off.
Tammy's Boy Podcast is intended for entertainment purposes only. Jon Carden is not a licensed therapist. He is just a friend.
All right, everybody, welcome in. Another fun-filled episode of Tammy's Boy. Hopefully, by now, you know what we do here, and if you're just tuning in, we tend to have conversations about parents and see where they lead. But before we get into it, how about a few words from my favorite person in the whole wide world, my producer, Mr. Cole Garrett.
Tammy's kids, how the hell are we doing? We are back. We are back again. It's another beautiful Wednesday. We're glad to be here inside your ears. The full video is going to be available on YouTube and Spotify, and the audio is going to be available on all your other podcast listening platforms. You also got a Patreon cooking right now, so if you want to go over there, go to www.patreon.com/Tammy'sboypodcast and see what we got. We do some fun. We had some few moments with our guests today. We had a good time. Also, guys, if you have a Tammy of your own, okay, you got someone who, made you think, makes you stay awake at night, okay? Mom, dad, uncle, cousin, doesn't matter. Tell us, okay? You can email us at tammysboypodcast@gmail.com. Tell us your stories, and we'll read those stories on the air. If that's too complicated for you, you can also just leave a comment down below. Guys, I think that is enough out of me yapping. John, who do we got on the show today?
Got a friend of mine. Somebody I've known for 15 years.
Gross.
Ooh.
How crazy is that? We both started comedy right around the same time in Seattle.
2012?
Yeah, 2012.
Yeah. Anyway.
Isn't that crazy?
I hate hearing that.
We stood outside the local 907.
Yeah.
15 fucking years ago.
That's insane to me.
That's
and
insane.
Gross. I don't like knowing how old I am.
Oh,
Yeah.
we stood outside the local 907.
14. Because I started at 22 and I'm 36.
Oh, 14, yeah.
Yeah. Close. Who cares?
We can round up. I think it's okay.
It's over 12. That's all I know. Okay.
She is pretty famous on Twitch now. I like to think you're famous.
I'll take it.
It's Lisa Wallen, everybody.
Yeah.
Hey.
Welcome in.
Happy to have you.
Me too. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, we started a long time ago. We started before cancel culture.
Yeah, actually.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think it was like right around a year or two after I started, the Louis C.K. stuff came forward with him jerking off. But I already knew about that before he was canceled.
A lot of people knew about that.
And we're just like, if you're a woman, don't work with Louis. I'm like, well, I don't want to hear that about my idols, going into this.
Yeah.
I think that's the hardest thing when you do anything in entertainment is that you go into it and you just think, these are all genuine people. And then you're like, nope, not at all.
What was so hard about that is that he got canceled for asking for consent.
Yeah, but also, like, what situation are you going to be in where you're like, hey, is it okay if I just whip out my cock? Like, just because you ask for consent doesn't mean you should do it.
I'm not defending him in any way, shape, or form. But when we're in my hotel room and I'm saying I'm whipping out my dick, the door's right there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You know what I mean?
That's up to you at this point. I'm in my room.
Yeah, you got to figure out the combination.
I'm like, cool, I'm going to shit the bed. How about that? All right?
Drop a grumpy.
You do your thing, I do the other. All right? There you go.
Just go full Amber Heard.
I don't give a shit. I give a shit. There you go. You know what? Amber Heard, I'm glad she did that. I would love to shit on Johnny Depp's bed. Are you kidding me? That'd be a great legacy to have. I'd write it on my resume.
One of my favorite things about that case was just Johnny describing it. God, it was literally, because here's the thing, the way he did that case, the way he talked during that case was insufferable.
Well,
okay?
yeah.
Because he's like, he takes 45 minutes to answer anything.
Because he's 65 and he's been a millionaire for 40 years of his life.
Absolutely.
That man has no ounce of empathy or sympathy. He's just like, I just want to fucking get over this shit. Listen, I'm Jack Sparrow, okay?
And I will be again soon, goddammit.
Yeah. Oh, my God.
If that bitch hadn't shit on my bed, I'd still be Captain Jack Sparrow.
So fucked up, man.
Oh, one turd and he lost his ship.
Yeah. That's how weak men are. But I just shit on your bed, dude. You've been abusing me. Yeah, but you shit on my bed. You're like, yeah, you know what? That's pretty gross. I hate women. They don't shit.
I love the fact
that my whole life.
I love that he called it a grumpy. I had never heard of a poop
called a grumpy.
Never. That was the first time.
A grumpy dumpy actually is what it should have been called.
It should have.
Yeah.
But he was like, yeah, and then she went to the bedroom and she dropped a grumpy. And you're
She
like,
dropped a grumpy. I actually did not know that until now, and now I'm never not using that term.
oh, drop a grumpy.
Man, when I was having appendicitis last week, I'd be like, oh man, it's really tough to drop a grumpy right now. A grumpy?
The best way I've ever heard
This
her to
makes
poop.
me think that like millionaire fucking dudes like this have a whole language we don't know about.
They do.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, because now I'm like, what the fuck is it? What other words do you guys know that I don't know?
Dude, the text messages from him and Paul Bettany being read in the courtroom, like they're reading Vision talking shit about Amber Heard,
Yeah.
who was in Aquaman.
Yeah.
I think that just made me so happy as a comic book fan.
You're like, so like in the comic book universe, Jack Sparrow and Vision
Or boys.
are boys. And they who was she? She was the girl in Aquaman. But
Yeah.
what was her role? Because I never watched Aquaman. I don't watch boy movies.
I mean, that was
I don't
Jason
know,
Momoa.
That's a boy movie. Any movie that is thing man is a boy movie.
Do you ever watch a movie, Joe, though, based on like the attraction of the male actor? Like if he's like super
that's
hot.
all male gays. Like everyone who's obsessed with Henry Cavill.
Yeah.
Men. Women are like, yeah, he's cute, but men are like, yeah, but he plays fucking Warhammer. And
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's the lore behind Cavill that makes us love him.
But I think people are actually starting to turn against Cavill right now because he's losing his hot bod. And I've been hearing some people kind of be like, what's...
He got injured.
No,
But the
you wanna know-
Warhammer people are still on him.
It's because he was like dating a 19-year-old when he was like 32 and was like, I'm scared of Me Too. I just go through whoever. And I'm like, I see both sides. I see, it's a gross comic, but also it's Henry Cavill. Like, it's like, I don't think he's really struggling out there.
No.
But no, all that is male gaze because for me, as we talked about earlier, Lord of the Rings to me is like, okay, Vigo and Lord of the Rings, that is female gaze, okay? Everyone else, male gaze, okay?
And if you, the viewer, are confused, we did a solid 20 minutes on Viggo Mortensen, Lord of the Rings on the Patreon.
So
Just if you want to go check that
subscribe
out.
to the Patreon
Just gotta go
to
check
hear
that out.
us horny talking about positive masculinity. There you go.
That's right.
So my ex says it all the time. She goes, I'm the perfect mix of Aragorn and Ron Weasley. And it is the most...
In what way?
Okay, you got to know me. Okay,
Yeah.
first off, I'm very steadfast.
Yeah.
Okay, and I will...
Are you also 87 years old and part Elvish?
I don't tell people.
Yeah.
Okay, I haven't come out of the Elvish closet yet.
Yeah.
But there is a day that I will allow my pointy ears to shine.
Yeah.
But no, she said I'm the perfect mix of Aragorn and Ron Weasley. And the more that I dove into those characters, the more I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, she's right. It really is. It's crazy how much I identify with those two characters.
That's crazy. I've been told I'm the spider from James and the Giant Peach. So, because I look
You
like
kind of are.
When I was a kid, everyone said I look like her. And I was like, that's fucked up, man. She's just a wide-faced spider who's French. I'm not even fucking French. But
Yeah,
thank
but
you.
she was dope. And she
But
cussed in the movie. She said, fuck.
And I have tons of limbs. I'm just very limby. I think that's really it. You
You're
know?
right. Yeah, I'm limby
Just
too.
Speaking of roast comedy we talked about earlier, one of the best insults I ever got from a comedian is that they said I look like a bag of elbows. And and that was when I was like 20 pounds skinnier. I literally looked like an elbow. So I was like, I'll take it. That's better than calling me a slur, you know?
God, one of the best roast jokes ever about me hurt. Like,
What?
I mean, it really made me rethink my life
Was it
as a
about
father.
your spine?
No, it was about me being
Oh.
a dad.
Oh, no.
And I was moving to Austin to be closer to my kids. And it was Anwar Newton in Phoenix. And I was on my last show in Phoenix. And he goes up and he goes, only John would move to Texas to be closer to his kids and still live an hour and a half away from them. And I'm like, oh, fuck, you're right.
That's actually pretty funny.
It's a big state.
Yeah. Is that a roast joke or is it true?
It's just true.
There you go.
That's
Listen,
what hurts so
I
bad.
love you guys, but like not that much. I love you for like $30 worth of gas. You know what I mean?
Were any of your parents in the Lord of the Rings?
Oh fuck yeah, my dad. It was the only time I've ever seen my dad cry.
Really?
Was watching Lord of the Rings. I've watched my grandpa and my grandma died. Like I've seen my parents go through because this whole podcast is about parents. Like my dad was an alcoholic growing up. You know, we did not get along very well. I never saw my dad cry. He was very emotionless. He still is. He's just I feel like he's kind of on the spectrum. Sorry, Dad, because he's probably going to listen to this. The only time I ever saw my dad cry was going to the theaters to see Fellowship of the Ring. It was the first time I thought this was the first time I've ever seen a man cry. Because I was it was 2001. I was about 12 years old. And yeah, I walked out of the theater. I was like, oh my God, my dad has emotions. Because he was like obsessed with, he loves Led Zeppelin. He's obsessed with Tolkien. He made me read The Hobbit when I was a kid. So I couldn't imagine the emotions he felt to know that for one time in the entire history of movies, they actually made a good live action of a book. Oh yeah. And a trilogy of it. Yeah. So watching him cry, I was like, that is a memory I'll never forget.
And I'm sure he had read the books.
Oh yeah. I'm sure when he passes one day, I will never be able to watch those or listen to the music without crying, for sure. Yeah.
Do you think that would be like the ultimate Christmas present for your dad, a first edition Tolkien?
Oh my God. Here's the thing. I'm a massive Legend of Zelda fan. They're doing a Legend of Zelda live action. I don't give two shits about it because I know it's going to be fucking garbage. You know what I mean? Same thing with the Elden Ring live action, because Lord of the Rings came out of a time where where Hollywood wasn't running out of ideas. Marvel hasn't ruined box offices. This was like the perfect time to do something like that. We'll never have an experience like that again.
No, we won't.
Yeah.
And so for my dad, this is the great, that's better than having me as a daughter, was having the Lord of the Rings live actions. He
leaves stuff to Peter Jackson in his will.
Yeah, he probably didn't even cry when we were born, but he cried at the end of Fellowship of the Ring, where Samwise comes out of the water and tells Frodo, "I'm coming with you on this journey." I would too, honestly.
Look over, he's quiver lipping.
Yeah, he's like, "Why couldn't you be him?"
Also, I've got to admit, that's kind of cool.
It really is, and I think when you have a relationship with me and my dad and I did not get along. At all. We were pretty, obviously he was abusive because I'm a child, but we were pretty mutually abusive because I am my father. Yeah. And I think that's a big issue with parents, is that when you have a child that reflects you too much, that becomes an issue.
Oh, I was my mother for a while.
Yeah, you were Tammy.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're a mix of Ron Weasley and Tammy. There you go.
She won't give me Aragorn, dude. She's not doing it.
Not Aragorn. Absolutely not. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, she hated that. She's waiting.
Don't ruin the image of him for me. No, I'm just kidding.
What, just because you're tall?
Yeah, exactly. But my dad and I, that was the first time I think I ever was like, oh, my dad is just not heartless. He just doesn't like me. He just wishes I was a hobbit. That's cool. No.
So, were your parents still together?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, we normally start off with the main question, which is who raised you?
A TV raised me.
Okay.
My sister raised me.
We get that.
We've had that a lot. Yeah.
My parents were interesting because I'm a lot closer with them now, but they were gone all the time we were kids.
Busy.
They were partying.
Oh.
My sister babysat me, and it's like the John Mulaney joke where you'd have a horse babysit a dog, because it was my 7-year-old sister watching 5-year-old me. One of my earliest memories is that my parents dropped us off at the airport, and we had to figure out how to get to Arizona on our own. They just went up to an attendant being like, listen, we're getting rid of them for a week. Can you help them? This was pre 9/11. And I just remember fast forward to being on a plane, crying the whole time because I'm fucking terrified, because this is my first memory of being on a plane, and then being in Arizona on the phone crying to my mom at my grandma's house about how we missed them. And they're just like, it's okay, have fun, we'll see you soon. I was very independent at a young age.
Yeah.
So I was raised by Pokemon and my sister, basically.
On the phone, you're just here.
Yep.
Cheryl, stop.
I definitely had a better relationship with my mom, but they did not have any rules for us. They gave us too much trust. And I do thank them for that, because of having that independence early has taught me a lot of hard lessons earlier in life. And I also never got to a point where I really fucked up things for myself. I definitely did drugs. I definitely drank, but I never got to a point where I got in trouble or got myself into danger, because I got that independence so early. I feel like kids who get fucked up when they're kids is because they didn't have that. They grew up in Christian households, or they were homeschooled, so they didn't get those hard lessons when they were 8 years old.
Yeah, or just satellite parents just really locking them down.
Yeah. By the time I was 15, I knew how to. I've already been to war. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I knew how to cook a steak. By the time I was 21, I was like, I'm over this drinking fucking old fashions. I'm like, I'm too old for this shit now.
Yeah.
So what you're saying, when it comes to parents, when it comes to emotions, your parents did not try to catch them all.
Nope, exactly. Pokemon joke. There you go.
So did your parents, are your parents still together? Were they together your entire childhood?
They were. I mean, there's times where I'm like, they should not be together. Now they're just old and they're never going to get divorced.
Mm-hmm.
They love each other, but I'm like, you guys need to go therapy. You know what I mean?
Was their relationship, well, I mean, you kind of said that. I mean, was their relationship kind of almost better with them? Like as them as a couple, were they a better couple than they were as parents?
Yeah. My parents very much, they smoked a lot of weed when we were kids.
Okay.
And I talk about on stage that they had a bong in the living room and they would like kind of set us to bed early. We didn't have TVs because we were pretty poor growing up. So we didn't have TVs in our room like other kids do. So we're sent to bed early and we're just bored as shit.
Yeah.
But we weren't allowed to leave the room because in the living room, they were just smoking out of a bong. And my sister and I got pissed one day. I ran to the living room to scare them. I saw the bong for the first time in my life. I was like 6 years old. I asked what it was. And my mom goes, "It's a wine bottle. Don't drink out of it."
Some dirty wine, Mom.
And then I went to go see Scary Movie with them. Because again, we were allowed to watch rated R movies when we were children.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a scene in it where Marlon Wayans is smoking out of the bong. And I literally went to my mom and was like, "That's not a wine bottle, is it?" So yeah, my parents.
It's called oxidation.
They loved to be independent together. I think they were they had kids in their mid-30s, but they had the mindset as teenagers. But they were very much, both came from abusive households, both came from strict households. They're like, we're not going to impose that life onto our children because we're fucked up. Which I think in their head they thought was good parenting.
It's something I've mentioned on this podcast a lot, and I will say it all the time. It is an ancient Chinese proverb, but it is very real. The path of avoidance is often the path to collision.
Yes.
And so the more you try to avoid the way that you were brought up, the more you're going to collide with other issues.
Yeah.
And so you have to basically reparent yourself and realize that everything you learned was wrong. Or not everything, but most things you learned as a child were wrong. You have to spend time with your inner child. You have to raise that inner child. And then upon raising that inner child that was fractured or hurt, you have to reassess that as a parent and then parent your children accordingly.
It is also interesting because I feel like there's a time in every person's life where they realize their parents are wrong.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen until you're much older. It's usually like in your 20s and when you move out. I noticed that when I was like 13. So I'm watching all my friends in high school like have these pretty awful parents and pretty toxic views of the world. And it's like, I know my parents had their issues and they weren't the best, but I learned very early of age that they weren't the best. And so watching my friends like still be like, no, like my dad's right about everything, you know, like, yeah, I got to go to college. I got to get the fucking scholarship. And I'm like, buddy, I'm working at fucking Arby's. The minute I turn 15 years old, I'm getting a goddamn job and fuck high school. Like I was like very much like, this is all bullshit. None of it means anything. Like I was just a cynical child because of that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah. Now look at me. There you go.
Making it.
But then I wonder if at that young age, because I kind of experienced that too, you know, a lot of family things that were too big to shelter from a younger kid. So you just get exposed to, you know, the adult world younger, around that age 10 or so. And I wonder if you get exposed to that at a younger age where you realize like, oh, wow, my parents they're not perfect. They're not perfect. I mean, no person is perfect. If people who find that out at a younger age are more inclined to, you know, once you're in your 30s, mid 30s, or once you hit that level of kind of not reverting all the way back to where it's like full not acceptance. I don't know what I'm trying to say. But basically, you kind of turn the page where it's like, okay, well, they were kind of right on some of those things. Like, I understand some of those things there, you know?
I think I resented my parents a lot because I was like an alternative school kid. Like, I did bad in school. I was horrible. I didn't do well in anything. And because of that, I developed OCD over the while because I've always craved structure and discipline in my life and never had it. And now I'm fucked in the head because of it. And obviously, I've learned to manage it. You know, I still struggle sometimes, and that's things that I wish my parents would have carved into me at an early age. But at the same time, because I've become an independent person at a young age, I am a lot more self-aware and a lot smarter than the people I know that do have that structure and discipline and did do well in life.
Yeah.
They're a mess in other ways that I am not.
Yeah.
I'll say that. So,
Man, you must have like just missed a military recruiter at one point. I mean, walking right by, they would have lashed onto you.
They would have loved me.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, oh, troubled child, tall, broad shoulders.
You want structure?
Let me tell you, they
Structure
loved
and
me.
discipline?
Yeah,
They
didn't
loved me.
But thing is, at that point, I was too cynical. I'd be like, nah, man, I'm gonna work at a fucking electronics store and sell video games. I don't want to go military, you know?
I want to make someone real happy.
Yeah. I'm having too much fun, you know?
Did you know I originally joined the Marine Corps?
Mm-mm.
I don't think I ever told you that.
No.
I was in the delayed entry program for the Marine Corps.
No shit.
And basically, for me, the Marine Corps was just like the first like fuckable chick that I saw.
Uh-huh.
It was
Yeah.
like the first opportunity
For sure.
that ever came about. And I was like, yeah, I'm in.
Mm-hmm. The blues, the blues are a good selling point too. It's like, yeah, fuck it, why not?
I think by the time the military came around to me when I was 18, I was already dating dudes like in their mid-20s that were getting out of the military. And I was like, yeah, that's a bad idea. You know?
Yeah, he's like, I've got a bad knee.
I'm already dating like predators. I'm good. Like, I don't need the military for that. All right.
What did your parents do for work?
My mom worked at, this is so funny. My mom worked at McDonald's, and it makes me laugh because they still have their childhood home. Like, I still go to my childhood home, and their home now is worth like $600,000 because it's King County, Washington.
Yeah.
And they bought that house in 1986 when mom was working at McDonald's as a clerk. They bought the house for $69,000. I'm like, you would never hear of that. So mom worked at McDonald's, and she worked at Fred Meyer. Shout out to Fred Meyer, the greatest grocery store of all time.
Kroger.
Yeah, Kroger. And then she worked at Metropolitan Market. So she went from like shitty food to fancy food.
Okay.
So our diets got better over time. Our diets were not good when we were kids. And then my dad, he was a Teamsters union guy.
Okay.
Just typical fucking status quo, blue collar, fucking boomer guy. You know? Yeah. And because of that, I retired early. And then this is even interesting. So my dad retired when he was like 50 years old. Teamsters union, get a good pension. They don't have a thing that doesn't exist anymore. Then he started, there's a Muslim cemetery outside of our neighborhood. And one day my dad was walking by and he was like, he noticed this old man digging graves. And my dad's like, hey, do you need any help? And then for 10 years after that, my dad became an honorary Muslim running a Muslim cemetery. And he just retired last year from it.
So your dad is like
my dad is white.
I assumed. I wasn't guessing black dad. You know what I mean?
It's like I mixed race, obviously, but my dad is white. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he ended up running this Muslim cemetery because the guy who owned it had dementia. So my dad was like scheduling graves, digging graves, basically becoming friends of the Muslim community. Like his Facebook friends list looks like they're all hackers. You know what I mean? Like it's just all fucking Indian dudes, all Arabs and all this stuff. Like every brown person is his friend on Instagram and Facebook. And he would like come home with like baklava and like all these like cool, like, cause it wasn't just Muslim, it was just like any like brown community basically went to the cemetery, and so he learned so much about different religions. He learned so much. He would be on the board of directors because he spoke the most English and people didn't see him as an immigrant. So they would have my dad be basically the face of like the Muslim Arab community. And I just find that so funny that that's where his trajectory in life went. And I think it did teach him to be a better person and a better father, obviously, because he was just facing death every day,
Yeah.
But when I tell people that, they're like, is your dad Muslim? I was like, no, my he's white, Mexican, Native American. So like, he's just a dark white person is what he is. So
I think, and maybe I know this is going to sound fucked up, but I think most Americans, no matter what color you are, you're white.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but it's like
people get so pissed if you say that.
People get really mad if you say that.
Because there's a lot of white Middle Eastern people. And
there are.
And like I have a lot of friends that are Turkish, a lot of Armenians in LA. They get so pissed when they say you're white. I'm like, you are white.
Yeah.
You are white. I'm sorry. If you can speak a Middle Eastern language, it's great, but you are white passing.
Yes.
Yeah.
One of my best friends on the planet, his name's Roberto Beltran.
This doesn't sound like a real name.
It's a real name, Roberto Beltran.
Mm-hmm.
He drives a Dodge souped up truck. He's got like 4 ex-wives. He was in the United States Army for like 14 years.
I'm assuming he lives in Texas.
He lives in Texas.
That
He
sounds
works
like the most Texas man ever. 4 ex-wives.
and he works for SpaceX.
That
Yeah.
He is white.
he gets
Okay?
that's
Yeah.
a Texas punch card with everything filled out right
Absolutely.
there.
I don't care what kind of restaurant your dad owned.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't care if it was a Mexican restaurant. I don't care if your tomatilla salsa recipe is absolutely incredible. I'm looking at you, Roberto. You are Caucasian.
I love it when people call me white as an insult on the internet because I get it. I am white, but it's like I'm also on paper I'm not white. I'm only 25% white because my mom is half Korean, half German, and my dad is half Mexican, a quarter Indian or Native American, and a quarter Irish. So on paper, I'm only a third white, really.
You know what's crazy is I'm just finding this out. I've known you for so long, and I just like always assume.
Koreans are like some white Asians. I was just there like a couple months ago, and they use a lot of sunblock.
But I think it's funny because I don't consider that an insult because it's like whether I'm white or not, I've realized that in the eyes of police officers and the government, I am a white person. It's not an insult. I think it's funny when people take it as an insult. I think it's even funnier when people get offended when people say that you're white.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why are you upset? I thought you were so proud of your race. Oh, and then people point out, you're like, oh, I might be white, but I'm also an 8th Chinese. Like, it's like you want to be cultured so bad, all right?
Oh, I don't get that card at all.
Yeah, no.
Well, because then on the flip
Like
side,
the
whenever you
most
got
Aryan.
someone who's like, really, really proud of being white, then it goes like way too far on the other side. So it's fine of that.
Too proud.
Yeah, it's fine
you
of that
can't
like
be
middle
too proud.
balance. Yeah.
Listen, it's like I'm glad that I have the Korean and the Native American and Mexican because I know how to cook. So there you go. And that's also why I look young at 36 because of those genes. It's not the white genes.
No,
okay?
no. I got the white genes. That's why I look 48 at 39. I remember growing up like around black people a lot, and I spent a lot of time in black houses growing up, and I remember them always just like being like, "Yeah, you're white, kinda," and I knew what they meant. And they meant you're white, but poor.
Well, this is the most interesting thing for me is that my parents' parenting, the way that we were raised, is all because they are a product of biracial marriage and how horrifying it was for them growing up. Because my grandpa was full Korean, married a German woman in the 1930s. People don't realize how fucked up that is back then. He was exiled from his family because of this. Meanwhile, my dad's side of the family, my grandpa is half Native American, half Native American, half Mexican, and he became a fucking police officer. So he was a police officer in the 70s and the 60s when things were real bad. They didn't have body cams back then. Racism was at its peak. You know what I mean? And my grandpa was very brown. So he had to deal with racism from from the cops, from the military, everything. So they are byproducts of generational trauma. And then we are the byproducts of that. But I could never say it on the internet because people be like, but you're white.
Yeah.
But I don't talk about things like this because it is true to see how my parents parent and how we were raised was because they were raised in such fucked up households. All because of interracial marriage. It wasn't because they were raised by two blah, blah, blah. It's because that both of their families were exiled from parts of their life because they married someone from a different race.
Damn.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I mean, it is kind of hard to digest a kimchi schnitzel. You know what I mean?
I do love a kimchi schnitzel, though. I eat kimchi out of the jar. I'm like, fuck yeah.
I knew you would.
That's why I shit so good. That's why I have the best grumpies. But that is something I've talked about before, and people don't take seriously because I am white passing. But it is true. Like, you look at the history of anybody who has any sort of race whatsoever. All the trauma, all the mental illnesses that they've gone is all because of what their families had to suffer through.
Yeah, I mean, I'm half Italian, half Irish, and pretty much half and half.
Yeah, you're like so much hair, but so much not hair at the same time.
It's insane.
Yeah.
Okay, I've got a red beard,
So much hair where you don't need it.
But I've got black chest hair. You know what I mean?
You got the bihairsal
bihairsal
family trauma.
My dad used to tell me all the time, how bad Irishmen had it. And, and he was just like, you need to know, if it wasn't for the Irishmen, the Civil War would have been lost. And I did research on that. And when you look at Gettysburg, you look at a lot of the battles and the Union soldiers that died. It's a lot of like O'Malley's, O'Shaughnessy's, O'Donnell's, O'Fillmore's. There's a lot of O's.
Irish people are the black people of Europe.
Yeah.
So.
They really are.
Yeah, they really are. And people get mad when you say that. But
I like to call them the Mexicans. I think they're more the Mexicans of Europe.
Who else are you going to choose in Europe?
I think they're more the Mexicans of Europe. If we're being, I think that's a little bit more accurate.
Yeah.
Because I can't call them, the black people because they didn't leave, against their will.
That is true. But they were enslaved.
They were starved out.
Yeah.
And they were enslaved. And that did happen to the crown. And this the reason
I apologize to all black people who are going to be like, we're going to beat the shit out of this girl for saying this. But
no, there's a lot of black people that agree with you.
Yeah.
There's a lot of black people that agree with that. But my issue with that was always like, I can't really give Irish people that because like, in the end of the day, you starved because of potatoes.
I do love Irish people though because they stay true to their grit. Because when fucking what's his face Conor McGregor came back and he's trying to do his I'm back on the scene. They're like, this guy better fucking die.
Yeah.
And I love that because I think Americans are such fucking pussies. You see Jimmy Fallon up there like, remember when you used to drink together, blah blah blah, and it's like, fuck you, you fucking pussy. But Irish people are like, this guy comes in a country, he's fucking dead. I'm like, yes.
Yeah.
I love that attitude. Only people who have gone through generational trauma have that attitude, not fucking Jimmy Fallon. Okay.
And believe me, there's people in Ireland that have gone through generational trauma.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's people that watched their second grade teacher die to a car bomb.
I do love that this episode is going to be probably titled Generational Trauma and there's two white people talking to each other.
First off, I lived in a trailer, okay? I don't know if people know what happens in trailers.
That is white people generational trauma.
A lot of generational trauma goes on in trailers.
But also now trailers are seen as luxury, which is so sad.
The second they started calling tiny homes
Winnebagos.
Yeah, I'm like, shut the fuck up, okay? That's just a trailer that moves.
I know.
Better.
Yeah.
That's it.
But trailers now cost like $500,000. Isn't that sad?
I know. I run into that sometimes, like especially in Florida, if I start talking shit about trailer parks, because I lived in quite a few, there's a bunch of old people being like, we actually live in like a gated trailer park. Like it's, we have like a security guard.
They keep the meth in here. You know what I mean? We don't want any of that outside meth in here, Yeah.
We actually have a Pfizer.
We have the good shit here, okay?
How did your relationship with your parents improve over time? What changed?
They started to notice the bad. So because I was independent at a young age, I feel like I was pretty safe. I always told them where I was. I never got to a point where I got grounded. And even though my dad and I got into some pretty violent fits with each other, there was always forgiveness in there.
What did that look like? What did you and your dad's violent fits look like?
I mean, we called the cops on each other a few times.
Okay.
Like my dad never fucking punched me in the face, but he's pushed me down the stairs. He used to shove me. He was pretty. I definitely have some abandonment issues, I will say. But it wasn't until I got older and started going through actual trauma, like getting into abusive relationships with men, and then I lost my fiance to suicide, like all sorts of. They started to see how their negative parenting skills trajected onto me, because it's like a lot of women will get into abusive relationships because they're seeking that validation. They're seeking that love that they never got from their fathers, And my dad noticed that. He was like, my daughter is starting to date men that are predatory and abusive. Like, I need to fix my relationship with my daughter. And that's what happened, is that by the time I was 18 years old, I had the shit beaten out of me by a boyfriend, Lost my virginity to an 18-year-old when I was 14. I was 16 dating a 25-year-old. And they were aware of this. But they thought, my daughter, she's mature for her age. She can make her own choices. It's not like now where TikTok's like, no, it's bad.
Yeah.
Back in the early 2000s, you did not think this shit was that bad. Okay. Yeah. But then it was like me coming home crying, or having my dad come pick me up because I got dropped off in the middle of nowhere, or I'm scared for my life because I don't know who I'm with. That was when my dad was like, I gotta fix this shit. And I'm glad he did, because I feel like there's so many horror stories of my friends. It's like, my dad wouldn't give a fuck. But my dad did give a fuck because he loved Lord of the Rings so much. And he was like, I'm the Samwise. I can't abandon Frodo. Frodo's my daughter, you know? Like,
got all these goddamn golems over here.
Well, your dad's probably watched Lord of the Rings in Arabic at this point.
Yeah, exactly. He probably has, honestly. But it is crazy.
How many times would you have to pray if you're watching all the Lord of the Rings? At least 4 or 5 times, right?
Times, right? But what's crazy is that I can still tell that my dad doesn't exactly know how to comfort me. Like when I did lose my fiance, he didn't know what to say. So he would just be like, do you want to go on a walk? And I'd be like, yeah. And we go on walks and we not say a word to each other. And in my head, I'd be like, well, this is kind of weird that he's not. But then as I've gotten older, I'm like, no, it's because this is what he doesn't know what to do. And this is him trying. And it's like, I'll give him that, you know?
I mean, there's something to be said for showing up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I'm very great. My dad has picked me up like in Seattle, and they lived an hour south because my friend like OD'd on coke, and I didn't know where to go, and I lost my keys, and I'm calling my dad crying, gets up, picks me up, doesn't say a word to me the whole drive home. And it's like, I still have my dad there.
Yeah.
Even though our relationship now is a little weird, it's almost like I have like this older autistic friend that is like, did you watch Invincible season 3 yet? Like that's my whole relationship with my father now. And I don't think it will ever be repaired with the damage that he caused me as a kid. But I respect where it is now, where it's like, if my dad was to pass away, I would have no regrets because I can have a relationship with him now because he still does the dad stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I completely get that.
I think it's tough because I was raised in a broken household, but I was friends with people in the similar area, and they all either OD'd on drugs, they all had kids at a young age, they all had abusive partners, they ended up going through they went through the military and they didn't come out okay, and their parents weren't there for them. During those times. And I was very lucky my parents were, you know.
Well, there is such thing as functional dysfunction.
Yeah, and that's what I have. And and those relationships are fine. I think now people are a little too harsh, because I have friends that will hate my dad because they saw the pain he put me through as a kid. And I'm like, okay, but I'm 36 now. I'm not going to hate my dad forever. You know what I mean? Like he's shown up in ways that I'm like, he's doing his best. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's like my cat pisses outside the litter box. He's getting there, you know? At least it wasn't on the bed. He tried. He did his best. I'm not going to get rid of my cat because he's a fucking idiot. You know what I mean? Yeah, not to compare my dad to a cat, but it is true, you know? And like my mom, she's just like has emotional attachment. If I don't talk to her today, she fucking breaks down and goes, you don't love me anymore. Even though she visited me 2 weeks ago and I see her in like 10 days. But that's a whole different mess. Yeah.
I get this question because I found it true for me in the way I grew up. And I think like hyper independence as a child and as a teenager is an illusion.
Yeah.
I really do, because I think it mentally, you mentally have this false conception that you can handle anything.
Yeah.
You kind of do, because you've had to handle.
I'm an old soul. I'm mature for my age.
Absolutely. You can handle all of these things because, you've got this misconception that you can. But in truth, you've only handled a small sampling size, and you've handled it through immense trauma.
Well, also your frontal lobe isn't developed yet.
Absolutely.
Like I look back when like people think it's weird. It's like, do you think it's weird when a 35-year-old man dates a 21-year-old? Everyone's like, well, she can legally drink. So no, I'm like, no, that is problematic. Her frontal lobe isn't fully developed. She just got to an age where she can finally explore her adulthood. I have so many, because I was preyed on at such a young age, and I thought I was making good decisions in my life. And I've only realized in the last few years of therapy how fucked up so many people I hung out with were. But yeah, like that's 100% true.
Well, there are a lot of guys that prey on girls that believe that they're emotionally mature at a young age. It's a real thing. It's and they do nothing to, I want to say, raise that person, or a lot of times they'll do anything to contribute.
Or to guide them.
Absolutely.
They groom them. They don't guide them.
Exactly. They groom them. They don't guide them.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've got a 16-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
And I've noticed, she's posting on TikTok now and things I look for in a man and stuff like that. And I'm going to tell you what I've been doing. Okay. I've gotten real petty, Lisa. I mean, real fucking petty. Any dude any 16, 17-year-old, 18-year-old kid that comments on my daughter's status, I follow them immediately.
Good.
Power move.
Good.
Right? I follow them. My little follow. I'm verified. Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm a name. People know who the fuck I am.
Mm-hmm. And listen, that's not intimidation. You're just like, I'm just curious to know who these people are.
Oh, here's the thing. I can disguise it as having an interest in my daughter's life.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's a 100% power move.
I know.
It's like, no, I'm watching you, motherfucker.
Yeah. Which is good. I mean, some people are like, oh, it's so gross. But it's like, no, I would have loved if my dad had a little bit more of like a fucking, why is this 25-year-old picking up my 16-year-old daughter?
Absolutely.
I would have loved that because then these guys I wouldn't be fucking having nightmares of them in my 30s. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh. Anyways, but that's good. Good for you, man.
Yeah. Sounds like a new segment, John. Sounds like we could bring that to the show, I think. All right, who's talking to your daughter today?
Yeah.
I got to be careful.
Yeah.
Here's our next segment. Let's read the comments on my daughter's post.
Because the second she turns 18, that goes away.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah. You were talking about your dad having abandonment issues, and I want to go back on that a little bit. Where do you think they came from?
Oh, 100% from generational trauma.
Yeah.
Because
but did he have parents abandon him?
Well, it's because my grandpa was both in the Korean War and the Vietnam War and became a cop.
Jesus.
And very much hammered down my dad that my dad wasn't a real man. You know what I mean?
Okay.
My grandpa abandoned my dad at a very young age. My dad started doing drugs when he was in high school.
Emotionally or physically?
Emotionally.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, like, you're from Washington. My dad.
I live there.
Yeah, you live there. My dad's from Kent. Like, my dad's from San Francisco, moved to Kent. Kent is not a nice place.
No.
And so my dad started partying and doing drugs at a young age. And grandpa basically abandoned him because he's like, my son's a fucking pussy. He's not a fucking man. And he really hammered that into my dad. And I can see how that still affects my dad today. And how it affects me today, and so that's probably where it came from. And obviously my abandonment issues come to the fact that, and our producer doesn't know, but like my fiance went missing 8 years ago, was never found, and he was in the military, and he very much took his own life. And so that also really re-triggered a lot of those issues that I had of abandonment. Yeah. And then also when you're a young teenager and you're dating all these older guys that once they're done with you, they move on to the next child, that really fucks with your brain, And it's interesting now because I'm in a long distance relationship and I can see how I still have like those abandonment issues. But I think being in a long distance relationship has made me more resilient to them because it's like, they can't abandon me. They're already in Australia. How much farther are they going to go? New Zealand?
A very powerful thing that I learned in therapy that truly changed my life and the way I look at relationships was if you are a healthy, self-sufficient person that is capable of taking care of yourself, no one can ever abandon you.
No, absolutely not. You have to I would never ever victim blame as someone who is a victim themselves. But there is a type of personality type that attracts people who will abandon and abuse you.
Yes.
And I'm not saying it's your fault. It's never your fault. But they latch onto that personality, that vulnerability, because they know they can control it.
Yes.
And it's like, it's not your fault. Yes, once you're out of those relationships, you go to therapy, you rechange how you develop relationships with people. But if you continue to be that person, you're just going to keep attracting those people. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, would you say that's kind of like, because you're raised in that environment. So really that's more talking to people who are raising a child, being like, hey, you can develop this person so that they don't have those characteristics that attract those kinds of people.
Yeah.
But then, shit happens and you get raised in those things. And then, but whenever you're a kid, like you're saying, before you're your brain's fully developed and stuff like that, would you say though that there does come a time in full adulthood, 30s, 40s, 50s, as long as you live, where there does kind of become like a responsibility where it's like, okay, well now I need to fix me.
Oh yeah. I make no excuse. Like I just ended a friendship with someone recently who was abandoned as a child to the point where she was literally raised by like her older sister. And she is 35 years old and still talks about it. Like, well, I can't change how I am because how I was raised. No,
right.
Bitch, grow up.
Yeah.
Grow the fuck up.
Yeah.
Grow up. Like I'm sorry. Like, there are some people who've gone through some pretty vile shit as a child, and it's like, you know, thank God I never had sexual trauma, you know, like that is one thing it sounds fucked up, but like, and this is a really dark way of looking at this, is that I have friends who are like, you know, I can't really forgive your dad because I saw how he treated you as a child, but I'm like, but he never did any weird shit. So for me, I can forgive him because he never crossed that boundary, because he knew if that boundary was ever crossed, he would never be that person. Yeah. My dad would never do that to his child. And I love him for that. And that's such a fucked up, dark thing to say, because it's like, yeah, but he still like beat the shit out of you. I'm like, yeah, but he didn't do any weird shit, you know? And like, it sounds bad, but it's like he never went past that boundary where it would have seriously fucked me up for the rest of my life.
Almost like, could you say like, you know, I mean, you're aware that he was doing these things that were just not right, but you could see his like moral or ethical like boundary.
The problem with my dad is that he had a lot of issues from his parents, and he had a lot of issues with alcoholism, and he lashed out on us. But he wasn't wired as a fucked up person, because if you cause sexual trauma to your kids, you are a fucked up person. That is unforgivable. And not only is that unforgivable, you should be locked up. You should be fucking shot in the head. I'm 100% like half of our government needs to die because they're all pedophiles.
Well, I had a harsh realization recently.
Yeah.
That one of my stepdads was a pedophile.
Yeah.
And it was like, it kind of, you know, it took me aback for a minute. I had to really think about it. And I'm like, no normal person would ever do the things he did to young boys.
Yeah.
Without some sort of gratification from it.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is like, when you're an abusive person, like a physically or emotionally and mentally abusive person, that's a terrible thing to do somebody, but through therapy and through like self-work and everything, you can actually change that, unless you fucking murder them or stab them. Right. Obviously there's a boundary with that. But it's like, my dad never got to the point where he seriously damaged me to the point where I would be affected by it. So it's like, I have friends that gone to that trauma, and they are now drug addicts. They are not doing well. But this person I unfriended, she was just like, yeah, my mom abandoned me and it was bad and blah, blah. And it's like, I get that's pretty fucked up, but like, you're an adult. You can go through therapy and work through that. Okay. Nothing else happened to you that was seriously damaging. So I'm like, there's no excuse, girl. Like, I'm sorry. Some people would disagree with this, but it's like, as someone who's went through a fucked up childhood, I knew what this person went through, and I'm like, you're just using this as an excuse. Yeah. You're 35. Grow up. All right? Yeah.
Well, I hate when people like not undersell, but kind of like undermine their own trauma with certain shit. And it's the way you're talking about things, and it reminds me of this. There's a difference between being punched and being flinched at.
Yeah.
Right? And if you do that to somebody all the time, They creates this uneasiness.
My reaction time.
Shit, John.
You know, a lot of drugs.
the uneasiness and the uncertainty that creates is abuse.
Yeah.
Right? Flinching at somebody.
Yeah.
It's you got it? It is abuse, you know, but is it as abusive as hitting someone?
Yeah.
There's no way to measure that.
I think that that's the thing with like my dad that I had to explain with my friends who were around for like the peak of the abuse, is like, what my dad had done to me is unforgivable, but I was able to move past it. Because not that I understand my dad or I forgive him for certain things, but I know the reason why there was abuse between us is because of who he is as a person, and he was lashing out on me. But like, yeah, there's certain boundaries. Like if my dad was affecting how I was acting at school, like I wasn't showing up to school because I was so physically hurt from my father, and then obviously like sexual trauma and stuff, that comes a thing where it's like I could never forgive my father. But really it was just like, I was a little shit and my dad was an alcoholic. And that is undermining my trauma. But at the same time, it is also like, well, you know, look at us now. We get along great, and that's all that matters to me. Yeah. I'm comfortable being alone with my dad. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm comfortable having a conversation on the phone. It's awkward as fuck, you know? I just went on vacation with them. You know, we talked about, because him and I have the same political views, thank God. You know, my dad has he's very good political views. There is things that I find my dad where I'm like, oh, you know, like he's not a terrible person, you know? Yeah. So
Yeah,
That's
just
good.
because you went through terrible things doesn't mean you're a terrible person.
Yeah, I mean, you should never hit your child, though.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, for sure.
No, I'm down with that.
Or push him down the
I'm
stairs.
very anti when it comes to spoil the rod, or spare the rod, spoil the child.
Yeah.
I don't believe that
You
whatsoever.
hit your spouses.
Yeah, what are we
No,
doing?
just kidding. Then you're like, Lisa, you gotta go to therapy. Yeah, you just hit your boyfriend now. It's fine.
Well, that's because a lot of parents, I've talked about it before, a lot of parents confuse discipline and punishment.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Discipline is constructive.
I need a discipline,
Yes.
not punishment.
Absolutely.
If I forgot the house key and my dad locks me out of the house and says, figure it out and shit, that's not discipline. You're just being a dick.
Yeah.
All right.
That's punishment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should never be terrified of my parent when I do something bad.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I grew up in a constant state of fear because of the uncertainty, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I was in, I've been in crazy relationships throughout my life because I've dated my mother several times.
Yeah.
And, some of those times people would be like, well, I wasn't really going to do that, make a threat and then be like, double back and be like, well, I wasn't really going to do that. That's abuse. You know what I mean? Anytime you make a threat and then you come back on it and you're like, I wasn't really going to do that, you're changing the narrative. And also you're taking away the feeling that I had.
Yeah.
The feeling that I had was the impending doom of this happening, the anxiety, all those things.
Oh, and I definitely see I have issues with that. And I get defensive really easily.
I do too.
Yeah.
I take criticism well. Like it's like if my partner and I are having issues, I really will sit down, listen, and figure out what it is. But I still get defensive, because I get frustrated because a big issue of like growing up is I felt like I was never heard. I felt like my side was never heard because I would just get punished for shit and I could never explain myself. And so now I have this issue where I have to always over-explain myself. I always have to prove how I'm right. I always have to show receipts. You know what I mean? Like even last week, my friend pointed this out. Like I got tested for endometriosis and it came out positive. And I was like, finally have an answer for my chronic pain. And I had to send her a screenshot to show her. And she goes, Lisa, I believe you.
Yeah.
You don't have to. Do you think I think you're lying? I was like, no, but I feel like I have to prove myself all the time.
Yeah.
Because I feel like sometimes the shit that happens to me is so wild that people don't believe it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've done that too. Even recently, I was supposed to take a friend to the car dealership and my eye was swollen from fucking pink eye. And instead of just being like, yo, I have pink eye. And this person saw me the day before and saw the pink eye. I sent them a picture of it.
Somebody did a grumpy on my face.
This episode is called The Grumpy.
Yeah.
Just dropping grumpies here, Tammy's boy.
Well, we got to wrap it up soon. But before we do, want to ask you some questions. Okay, we've been doing a new segment where we want
to make Lisa cry.
where we want to kind of get into the psychology of the parent a little bit by some specific questions. So the fan favorite that we have that we'll start off with is you are, let's say, middle school age, 10, 12, somewhere in there, and your parents bring home John.
I'm your adopted brother.
John is now your adopted brother. Okay?
Okay.
It is your job it's his first day in the home. It's your job to debrief him on the dynamics of the family. What is he to expect?
You have all the freedom. Do whatever you want.
Anarchy.
That anarchy.
We're just going to Lord of the Flies this shit.
Yep. It's just like, no, dude, mom and dad are so cool. They give us no curfews or money. It's great.
You can stay out as long as you want, but you're going to be broke doing it.
You also need to get a job. Who cares about school? You have to work.
Listen, I've been working since I was 9 years old. I'm ready.
That's how I would sell my family to you, actually. Yeah. I don't have any brothers, though. I have a sister. So it's hard to tell how my dad would be with a son.
Yeah.
Yeah. But with my sister, he never laid a finger on her. It was I was the problem child. So my sister was like, I don't know why you guys are always fighting.
Were you older?
No, I'm younger.
Younger.
That's why.
Oh.
My sister's a lot more like my mom. I'm a lot more like my dad. I got an attitude. So
Interesting.
yeah, I talk shit. I talk back. That's why I do comedy now.
How did dinners go? Did you guys do dinners as family, always separated? Was there any schedule to it?
It was usually always with family as long as we're all together because they also worked a lot and they were gone a lot. So we would have, I learned how to scramble eggs and do ramen at a very young age,
As you
Same
do.
with McDonald's. But when we did have a family dinner, we did make sure to all sit down together. We weren't allowed to eat anywhere but the dinner table.
Okay.
But we did have the Simpsons on, so it wasn't really like a family meal.
Being a latchkey kid is depressing enough, when you've got a parent that's like successful and doing big things and like they're not there because they're busy with that. being a latchkey kid to a parent that's working a blue-collar job is one of the saddest experiences there is on planet Earth.
I don't even get the benefit of it.
No, you get no benefits, just the alone.
Yeah, just the alone. Just like that's why I had video games, man. We were poor, but I always had video games.
And I was going to ask, one of the things I wanted to get into before we get in there is like, because you're big into video games now. So imagine they had to be a huge part of your childhood.
Oh, my earliest memory is watching my dad play Zelda on NES.
Okay.
Yeah. My dad, my mom, big Pac-Man girl, like they were nerds.
Yeah.
That was where we all bonded, was if my dad and I would fight all the time, a couple days of tension, then he'd be playing Zelda and I'd be like, what level are you on? And that was how we never talked about what happened. There was never any apologies. We just moved past it, which now I've realized it's not healthy. You're moving forward. You're not repairing,
Yeah.
So there you go.
Some dope smoking nerds, huh?
Yep. Dope smoking nerds. Now look at me. I'm one of them.
This next question is a new one. It actually comes from my mother, Lisa. So shout out to Mom. Which parent would you rather go shopping with?
My mom.
That was so fast.
Can you elaborate?
Because my dad would just be walking around the mall being like, I got banned from Facebook for telling Trump to kill himself again. And then he would get pissed after 10 minutes because we couldn't let him do his own thing. My mom is great. She's the best person to go shopping with because they never gave me money as a kid. But now I'm older, like, I'll buy you whatever you want.
Oh, yeah.
But
that
then
guilt?
they'd be like, as long as it's $8.
You can get anything you want on that shelf at Dollar Tree.
Yeah. No, my mom for sure. I love shopping with my mom. She's hilarious. Yeah.
That's so nice. If you this last one I got. If you guys had whenever you were a kid, if you had a large household appliance like a water heater, AC, goes out, what would the next chain of events be?
My dad would take it out on me for some reason. It would be my fault that the AC is out.
God damn it, Lisa, you broke the water heater again.
And then he would try to teach me how to fix it because he's like, ain't no one going to marry you. Let me teach you shit. So
you need to be your own handyman.
yeah, I actually am a pretty big handyman.
Oh, that's impressive.
So because of my dad. So and then I would watch him fix the water heater because we couldn't afford anyone to come fix it. He'd have to fix himself. It was pre-YouTube. So he's reading a fucking guide. Be like, what's the next page say? I'd be like, I don't know. I can't read. So there you go.
Dude, between you and your boyfriend, you guys are like a full man. You know what I mean?
We are.
Like
Yeah.
100%.
We're just tall fucking jacked dudes together. Yeah.
You show up with the toolbox, he shows up with a claymore.
Yeah, exactly, dude. It'll be fucking terrifying.
He's got
in
two
like
katanas
3
on his
years.
back.
I'm about to grow a beard in the next year. We'll see what happens. Yeah.
I can't wait for that.
I know.
Oh, we're gonna like twins.
No. Yeah, they don't know that my boyfriend's like the coolest man alive. So
You need to know that.
Yeah.
Okay. First off, everyone needs to know. Here's the thing. If Lisa and this guy ever break up, I'm gonna go through a mourning period.
me too.
Like I'm gonna
who
be on
else
the
am I
couch,
gonna date besides a professional sword fighter / stuntman?
and not just any stuntman.
Yeah, tell
Okay.
Yeah, Chris Hemsworth stuntman.
Chris fucking Thor stuntman.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
I know.
There's been some flexes on this show.
Everyone's
That's-
like, damn, this bit. See what happens when your parents abuse you? You end up with Chris Hemsworth stunt buddy, okay?
Yeah.
So any girl going through it right now,
Yeah.
keep going through it. One day it'll pay off, okay?
Yeah, there's a 16-year-old out there right now be like, wait until the very end of this podcast, be like, well, I don't know.
Lisa, you called him a stunt buddy.
Somebody, yeah.
That is what every stuntman needs to refer to themselves
I'm
from
a
now
stunt
on.
buddy.
I'm a stunt buddy.
Sorry, he's an action designer. Okay, there you go.
No, I'm a stunt buddy. That's what I want to be. God, he's got to watch The Fall Guy and just be seen.
He was like, I know everyone who worked on it. Of course you do. Fuck you. All right.
Yeah.
Like,
And that was like a movie made of stunts. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
pretty impressive
I never
the way
watched
they did
it.
that.
I
haven't
gotta
seen
watch
it
it.
Really?
Yeah, I
enjoyed
feel
that
like
one.
I'd be like, that's not what it's like.
I know. It's like watching a fucking war movie with a Vietnam vet. And it's
like, yep. Anytime I watch a movie with a stoner chick, I'm like, psh, we're not that hot. Shut up.
Yeah. The only one that I feel is completely accurate is the chick that's in Knocked Up. With the glasses. Do you
Oh,
remember
hell
her?
yeah.
Yeah, she's the one that I feel like that's the most accurate representation of a stoner
Oh,
chick
yeah.
we'll ever
Or
get.
gamer girls in movies. Well, they don't really have those as much, but anytime you
No.
see like the AI Twitch girls, I'm like, shut the fuck up.
I know. I hate when they show hackers and they're all like clean and like good looking and shit. And I'm like, listen, I know people.
These are Reddit moderators, okay?
Absolutely. Yeah.
They're
like,
in
I
your
know
mother's basement.
Yeah, they
preying
haven't
on
cut their
children.
fingernails in at least 3 months.
Yeah.
there's a lot more neck beards.
That's because there's so much Cheeto dust in them.
Yeah,
So,
100%.
you
And
know.
Code Red.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we always close this up real simply. And it's if you had one piece of parenting advice to give to everybody out there raising a kid right now based on your childhood, what would you give them?
Ask them questions. Literally, like I would have loved it if my parents asked me more questions instead of just how was school, you know? Like they never asked about my personal life, and I think that's what I needed. And also discipline. Discipline, please don't punish them. Don't make them feel awful. Teach them how to change. And I'm not a parent, but that's what I would have needed to not have OCD at 36 years old. So there you go.
You know, one of the things I read recently that I thought was pretty profound was a parent, they were talking about what they asked their kid when they pick them up from school. And they don't ask them how your day was. They said, what feelings did you have today? And I think that's a little empathic for me. You know, just like, I don't know if I would go necessarily that route, but I did admire that. Where it's like you're teaching your child that there are emotions to a day. And, you know, how to basically be aware of those emotions. Yeah. And I think that's a brilliant way to parent. I really do.
You're like, I'm not going to, but that's a brilliant. I'm just kidding.
I think I could do the same thing in a different way.
Yeah.
I think that's more genuine to me,
you know, you just follow the guys that are commenting her TikToks. You know, that's it. Like, what kind of feelings are these boys having?
Wait until she's 18 and I'll start sending them ass pics.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Go, yeah.
That's when it's going to get real fun. I got another hairy ass pic from your dad.
Anyways, good times, guys.
This has been a great episode.
This has been a great one. Absolutely.
Thank you. I'm a yapper. I haven't slept, so
I know. I appreciate you. So I want to say it. Thank you so much because I know you're tired. I know it's been a lot, and I appreciate you for being here. It really does.
No, this is great. I learned so much. You know, I'm not in therapy right now. I learned a lot today about myself, and I'm gonna go apologize to my boyfriend immediately.
Hey, you're welcome. Okay.
Yeah,
and if you're ever looking for somebody to come hang out on set with you and Henry Cavill, I'll fucking be there.
Want to talk about your parents? Come on over.
Yeah.
You know, we were talking about Cavill, and I'll close on this. Cavill really is like, he is for the boys.
Yeah, that is a male gaze to the fucking T.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right? Yeah, he is 100%. The other day, he smoked a brisket, right? And he posted about it.
Of course he did. He's like, what man shit could I do today?
8-hour brisket.
But he's got like a nerdy British voice, which I think is so charming. I think that is the most female gaze thing of him is that he kind of has a dorky voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's British. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
British people are not sexy in my eyes because I would never want to have sex with a British guy and be like, oh, I have arrived, you know, like, so it's like, okay, I kind of think that's cute. That's about it.
Shall I come now or shall I come later?
Yeah. Did you come yet?
Are you going to come, dear?
Yeah.
Pop it.
What a way to end this podcast.
That was great.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in, man. Make sure you're following Lisa Wallen on social media. We want to know where to find you.
I'm so online. You can watch my comedy special on YouTube called Lisa Wallen Leaves the House.
There you go.
Nice.
There you go.
That's great. You know where to find me. If you don't, go into the Jon, pretty much on everything. Thank you guys for tuning in. We appreciate you so much. Keep doing what you're doing. Like and share and subscribe, and we'll keep doing what we're doing by trying to make this the best damn podcast in the whole wide world.
Damn
Thank you guys so much. See you soon.
Bye.
Is your mama alive? Did your daddy make you cry? Hey, it's Tammy's boy. Tammy's boy. Tammy's boy. Hey, it's Tammy's boy.
They can subscribe. Why can't they? What would ever prevent them from subscribing?
Well, that's the question. Why wouldn't you subscribe?
It's like, you know what I mean? Subscribe if you can. No, you can.
You can. It's
What?
free, actually.
People with nubs for arms can do it with their tongue, dude. You got this.
You got this.
I believe
Listen,
in you.
we believe in you.
Yeah.
Subscribe.